time we talk about the flow of a sales call that gets you clients and that gets your prospects pulling you and closing you as their new online coach. Hey guys, what's going on? Welcome into the live production of episode 69, Giggity, of the Client by Client podcast. We're going to get started here in a little less than 40 seconds. Today on the podcast, if you are tuning in via Apple Podcasts or Spotify, today's episode that just went live was 5 books that every coach must read. 2 or 3 of these are going to be ones that might catch you by surprise. 1 or 2 might be ones that you're expecting. But if you want to know the books that have had the biggest impact on my online business coaching journey and on getting my business mind right so that I can be taking the right actions and building my business, scaling it, be sure to go and tune in. You can find the podcast by going to pod.link/clients to find it in your favorite podcast player, or just search Client by Client over in your favorite podcast player. That said, let's hop in and let's get this going. Friends, family, clients, past clients, all my repeat offenders, drop me some emojis. If you're first time here, drop me a number 1. Would love to say hi and give you a little shout out here on the show. Hey, what's up? Jeremy here from whatupjeremy.com, back with another episode of Client by Client. Thank you so much for tuning in. We've been on an absolute tear here, team. We're here at episode 69, and I'm excited to bring you the flow of what a really good sales call looks like. Before we get into that, let's talk about what happened in the last episode of Client by Client. And what I attempted to do for you is to take something that's extremely nebulous when it comes to marketing, to bring it down to ground level so that you can get in the minds of your prospects and make them feel like you're spying on them and like you're listening in on their most intimate conversations and thoughts. And when you get this right, your content becomes binge-worthy. I want, when your prospects find you, I want for them to get a sense that everything is going to be okay because they already feel more confident with you in their corner before they reach out and comment, before they like, before they follow, before they share, before they send you the word you're asking for at the end of your caption or at the end of your story. They're starting to watch your stories, watch how you move, watch how you act. They are getting more of your content in their feed, and they're starting to think, not, will this help me? They're starting to think, can this person take me on right now? Can this coach, when can I start to work with them? And when your prospects are having those sorts of thoughts, now you have the recipe for extremely warm conversations and even hotter sales calls. So be sure to backtrack 1 episode so that you can understand how to create this Netflix effect in your online business, where when your prospects find you, they cannot stop scrolling on your feed. They want to go and check out you on every platform, and you kind of feel like you're being hunted. Whereas most coaches think that hunting is the way of getting leads. It's absolutely not true. It puts you in the wrong vibration. You want to be the one being chased. And this is just one of the ways we're going to build off what we talked about in episode 5, which is getting prospects to chase you. So be sure to backtrack 1 episode if that's important to you, because that's going to lean and leverage you into what we're talking about here today in this episode, which is the flow of a sales call that gets clients, that keeps that prospects chasing you effect. And when you get on the call, you're doing less of the talking. You are doing more of the answering when it comes to their questions in terms of working with you and creating this effect where they're closing you and where they're asking you at the end of that call, how much does it cost? What time frame? When would we get started? And do you take this form of payment? Because when you're having that kind of conversation a few times a month, a few times a week, and eventually a few times a day, you have the recipe for 15K months, 15K weeks, and 15K days minimum. That said, let's hop in and let's start by talking about what happens if you don't get today's episode right. The first thing that happens is that getting clients feels really hard. And that's frustrating because you're trying to get clients and revenue generated, but you're kind of failing time and time again, whether it's coming to the booking of the call or making your way all to the end of the sales call, or worse, you show up for the call only to be ghosted by your prospects. The second thing that happens is that you get on call after call, but you don't wind up with the money. And that's frustrating because you just wasted 45 minutes to the better part of an hour, for a lot of you, an hour and a half. And that gets you dejected because you invested all of this time that could have been spent on other more fruitful things in your online business or even in your own personal life, and you start doubting yourself and doubting the possibilities and doubting yourself and your online coaching business. That's the exact opposite of what I and we want for you. And that said, let's hop in and talk about the 9 parts of a high converting sales call that get your prospects closing you. The first part of a really good sales call is all about taking the wheel. This is like the opening part, and it's the welcome. This is where you build rapport. This is where you ask them, if you're doing a 2-call close, maybe about something they revealed to you on the previous call. How's the dog? How's the husband? How's Jack? How's Mary? How's the wife? How are the kids that you maybe already got the names of? And then you quickly, because like really good sales calls happen in 45 to 50 minutes, the best ones. Some calls will go about 25, 30 minutes, and that's amazing, and you walk away with the client. The calls that really go over an hour, your chances of getting them as a client start to diminish. And so everything that you do, from the content that you're creating, the pains and problems that you're talking about, the conversation you have in the DM to get to book the call, and then how you start the call really will determine what happens at the end of the call. So it's important that you get this part right. What this sounds like is, if you're doing this on Zoom or you're doing this over phone, is the little Zoom jingle goes off or they pick up, all right? And you're gonna have some sort of welcome. Jerry, what's going on? Thanks so much for being here, man. How's the day been so far? And what I like to ask is, because I help other coaches, is what's gotten done so far? Because now we're gonna start to drill into kind of like, what have you been doing business-wise? If you help, like, think about questions that you can ask contextually to the problems that you're solving with your prospects and with your ideal clients. And you really, like, what I want for you to not do is get into bantering and getting into a lot of back and forth that's not about the pain and problem and about why they've booked the appointment. And it can feel like a lot of coaches that fall into that trap of kind of losing this part at the very beginning is that they want to feel cool with the prospect. They want to feel like everything's okay. And it does kind of feel good when you're having a good conversation going back and forth. But for a lot of you, you're going to have 1 or 2 sales call a week. You have more time on the beginning and the end, and that's an issue. I'll get back to that here in a second. For many of you, when you really start to dial in your organic content, your messaging back and forth, and the process of booking the call with them and making sure that your prospects book the call, because we don't wait and just hope and pray that people book calls. We walk people through it who engage with our content, who reach out for help, who are downloading and asking for our resources. We ask them questions, we ask if they're open to some help, and then we give them the link personally, and we make sure they know how to go and book the call and what the next steps are. It's important that you get that right. Once you get on the call, let's backtrack for a second. When you start to get this really, really, really dialed in well, and you have other projects going on in your business and you have other things that you're focused on, what starts to happen is that you will inevitably have calls booked back to back, or you will start to get strategic and say, on this day of the week during this window of 4 or 5 hours is when I do all of my sales calls. That's a little bit down the road for the majority of you, but if you don't start now building in some sort of time limit and time frame, even though you have a bunch of time in the beginning and you have all day afterwards at the end, you could be working on other stuff, but no one's really waiting on you for it just yet. Maybe you don't have a client that's waiting on something or have a one-on-one call booked with you or something like that. You have to communicate in your body language, in your focus, and in your words. And I'm not saying be a hard ass or be super serious, but I would lean you towards being a little bit more serious than their friend during this so that you can keep it professional. Professional is probably the best word that I can give you if I'm going to give you the overall feeling that you should be going in with and aiming at. And so this is the welcome. It's important that you grab the steering wheel here and start to lead, because oftentimes prospects will get on a call and they've either never done this, and so they just start to download into you and start to just like talking about the things, and you have a flow that I want for you to stick to from this call, from what we're chatting about here, because this is going to be the highest likelihood of you getting the client. If you just let the client start to just throw up all of their things at you, their problems, their pains, what they're wanting, and why they're here, it's going to be really hard for you to be in control of that call. And subconsciously, if you aren't in control, the prospect is, and subconsciously, they're aware of it. Why would they want to go with a coach who isn't even in control of this initial conversation? And they're not thinking that, but they're most definitely feeling that, and it's a subconscious thought that's being communicated during the entirety of the call. So the first part is the welcome. This is where you say hello. This is where you maybe comment and ask them a quick question like, what's gotten done so far today, or what's been the focus today? And then you say something like, okay, that's awesome, happy to hear, man. Ready to hop in? And they're going to be like, yes, let's do this. Every step of this is an opportunity for you to fall off of the tightrope, so to say, which is why I prefer that you have a framework and a process that you stick to so that you can optimize it. Many of you are changing your sales script all the time, or you're allowing it for it to go with the wind, pending what the prospect comes on, because you're trying to get the money. And so you think that being nice and catering to them and being more of like a server, like a restaurant server to them, is going to be what gets them to leave the big tip. But in reality, it's you having the control and setting the frame, which is a thing that's going to get you the highest likelihood of them making it to the end of the sales call and them wanting to start coaching with you and them making the investment while they're on the call with you. The first part of a sales call that converts really well is all about the welcome and how you handle it. We call that grabbing the steering wheel. Second is when you get into, after you've gotten through the welcome, is where you start to talk about how this call is going to work. And this is where you, with your words, start to communicate that you have control over this. And this is what this would kind of loosely sound like, or what I would like to hear in your call recordings, and what I would like for you to positioning with your clients. That might sound something like, they just said, yes, let's get this started. Okay, awesome. So I have a framework. I have a model I like to use for conversations like this. I have a structure I like to use for conversations like this to make sure that we cover all of the bases. So you're letting them know that I have a plan for this already to make sure that our time is super efficient together. They're going to start feeling better already about the thing. And if, when someone else is doing something for you that you're used to doing on your own, like thinking or taking control, this can be a very good feeling. And it's extending the sense of, I've found the right person for me, because they're strategic and because they've thought of me. And maybe they didn't think of me in this sales process, but they've made something that's going to help me. And now I want to play along, is what we want going through their head. So I have a framework I like to use for conversations like these to make sure that we cover all the bases and to make sure it's the highest and best use of your time. I even go as far as saying something like, I have a framework I like to use for conversations like these to make sure that this is the highest ROI 45 minutes you're going to have in your business potentially all year. 3 things that I really want to do before the end of our time here together. First is I want a clear picture of what the future looks like. I want to know what success looks like for you in your mind's eye, so that we can build a plan that really makes sense. Second, I got to understand what's going on right now. The more I know about how things are right now, the better I can point you and steer you towards where we need to get to in your goals. Lastly, is just about obstacles. We need to identify any roadblocks that are holding you back, getting in your way, or stopping you from being for where you want to be. Is that okay with you? So in the first part, we've already said, you ready to get this started? And they say, yes, that's permission. Second, we tell them how it goes, and then we say, are you comfortable with that? They're going to say, yes, awesome. You just got 2 green lights. So we're 2 parts in of this 9-part process. First part is the welcome. The second part is how it works. I have a framework to make sure that this is a super good use of your time. And what we're going to talk about is three things. The future, because you have to be clear on what their goals and objectives are, how things are right now so you can get the full picture of what the struggles are, what the frustrations are, and then any obstacles or things holding you back or keeping you in your way. In yesterday's episode and many before it, we've talked about the chasm, where your prospects are on one side of the Grand Canyon, there's the actual canyon and the big gap between them, and then there's the other side of where they want to be. When you think about the future and asking them and telling them, positioning with your prospects that we need to talk about the future, you're talking about the other side of the chasm. Then you're talking about how things are right now, which takes them back to where they're at, which is on the pains and problems, frustrations, and fear side of the chasm. So these frameworks that I shared with you guys aren't just esoteric things. We take these in the Get Clients program and we implement them into everything that we do. We talk about the Netflix, the binge-worthy thing at the beginning of this. There are strategies and actual framework for that. You can head back to yesterday's episode to fully understand that. Here today, when you think about the gap and the chasm, we've only talked about that this far to making your content better. This comes into play when you have a real prospect, a real breathing human being that has the problems that you can help them with. This is going to help you to go deeper and to uncover it. And now you have more intel to take back into your content. So the second part is about how it works. This is where you're starting to say, we're going to talk about the Grand Canyon. We're going to talk about the chasm and this gap together and kind of understand this below the line. You don't share this so that you can understand how far is that gap and how realistic it is and what needs to happen in order to get them from where they're at safely over to where they want to be. Third is all about why. And I love to ask this question because it sets me up and it sets you up as the authority. We've talked, I wonder how many times I've said that authority is built on a person-by-person basis. So many of you guys want to look like the Tony Robbins, the Marie Forleo, the Brendon Burchard, but that is so far down the road for you. So you have no need to be doing any of the things that those coaches are doing, as brilliant as they are. You got to be doing the right things for you right now. Now, that what that doesn't mean is that you can't still create authority. Authority is created on a prospect by prospect basis. And here's a question that you can say at the beginning of your sales call, in the third part of your sales call, to start to build that authority and to bring it to the surface. And what that sounds like is, before we get too deep here into the future, into the now, and into the roadblocks and the obstacles, before we get too deep here, I'm curious, what made you choose me to have this conversation with, and why is it important to you right now? This question, you're either going to get from them one part of it, or you're going to hear back from them, like, can you repeat that for me? And then you're going to break it apart into two parts, because it's really kind of a two-part question. Yeah, sure. I just want to understand why why are you having this call with me of all of the people in the world, of all of the coaches that you could, because they could, in whatever you coach with, maybe you don't help businesses. Of all of the people in the world, maybe you don't help people with high performance. They could be talking with a ton of other coaches, with a salesperson from Tony Robbins, with a salesperson from Marie Forleo, with a salesperson from Brendon Burchard, or whatever coach, from Mel Robbins, or whoever. Why are they having this with you? When we talked in the last 2 episodes about something Alex Hormozi said that's really stuck with me, which is, if you want to control what people think, control what they say. This is where you're starting to get in control of what they say and get into their mind, because they may not have thought about this so far. Before we get too deep, why are you chatting with me of all the people in the world, and why is this important to you right now? Sometimes you got to get they're going to share with you one of two things. They're going to share with you why it's important to them right now, and they're not going to say why you, or they're going to say why you, but they're going to kind of forget the second part of the question about why now and why it's important to them. So you do not move on from this part until you're clear and can repeat back to them why they're having this chat from you, why are they not in their business, with their family, in the gym, doing all these other things that they could be doing, and why are they choosing, and why do they choose to show up today on time? And why are they choosing to have this conversation with you of all the people that they could? They may not have thought about it, but now they're about to explain that to you. And I'll be straight up, it feels really good to hear the reasons why someone chose you. And it gives you a lot of confidence. So many coaches don't have a part like this in their script, and you wonder why at the end of sales calls you're feeling really dejected, or why they're feeling like something's got to change, and why they're always messing with their script and trying to find a better script and doing all of these things. The third part is getting to understand why now, why you, and what made them actually show up today. And then you repeat it back, just so you can make sure. Now, for those of you doing a 1-call close, repeat it back. If you're doing a 2-call close, you have my permission to not repeat this back, because you also need to be sticking to time and making sure that you're sticking into this window, because you don't want to be positioning a 45-minute call and it takes you 90. A 45-minute call and it takes you 50 minutes, but you're getting the money at the end. That's totally cool. But I don't want you on there for 90 minutes and then they got to go think about it. And so let's tighten this up. And if you're doing a 2-call close, you've already asked this question for like my Get Client students and all my clients. You've already asked this in the initial call. So you don't have to repeat back to them like you would in the initial call. For everybody else, and for my not yet students and my not yet Get Clients members, I would repeat this back, or have the goal of being super, super clear that you could write it out of why they chose you and why this is important to them right now. Fourth, now we're unpacking and getting into the chasm. Let's talk about the future. This is all about the results that they're going after. And what I would typically like to say, and what I implore you to say, is something like, say we're having this conversation in a year from now, what would have need to have happened with the problem that you help? So what I would say, what would need to have happened in your business for you to feel really good about your progress? Let's say you help single moms get their high school bodies back. Let's say we're having this conversation a year from now and we're looking back on everything that's come to pass. What would have made you feel really good about your progress? It's the same question. And they're going to share with you what would make them happy after a year. And this is where you're either going to get a gauge for they're aiming way too high and way too far. And so you're going to have to kind of bring it down to ground level. And you'll do that here in a second. You'll see how. You'll hear how. Or you can really understand how realistic their goals are. And now you're going to get the confidence that you can help them right away. Like when someone signs up with me, I'm confident they're going to go and generate revenue right afterwards. And it's all pending on what their goals are here. So really good coaches, you might have to take their really big goal and truncate it down to something a bit more realistic, and then ask the question again. So let's say, I'll just give you an example in my business. I help online business owners. I help a lot of online coaches. A lot of them will say, I want to make 10K a month, which is totally possible. Some of them will say, I want to make 100K a month, and somewhere in between. But if they are just at the starting line right now, that 10K might totally be possible. That 100K might be. For the overwhelming majority, it's going to take you far longer than you think, because you're not asking for help the second that you're unclear. You may not have the mentor. You may not have the mentor that has the plan and the support and the community for you. And also you might get all of that and then not follow it. These things happen in coaching, but you want to create the structure and the confidence in them being realistic so that they show up playful out during the call and then as a client and getting the results and sharing them back with you as well. So you need to understand what their vision is. And then if it's too large, or if you know that, they could, that's totally possible, but for the majority, it's not, bringing it down to something like, okay, so a second ago you mentioned you want to get to 100K a month. Let me ask you this, just hypothetically. Let's say we were only able to get you to 20K consistently every month by the end of the 12 months. Would that be total time wasted, or would you still be stoked and happy with your progress? And if you do this well and you know the pains and the problems and the immediate wants and aspirations, they will typically say something like, no, like that would actually be cool. Like, yeah, I want to get to 100K, but if I'm just making 30K, by November, December, like, yeah, that would totally be cool. And I would totally be a lot happier than I am right now. And then you could say, okay, got it. Appreciate that so much. You need to understand what needs to happen to make them feel really good about their progress. What I would also recommend you do, building off yesterday's episode, is also take this deeper and ask like in a way, asking the why 6 times. A lot of times coaches will come and like, why do you want to get clients? Well, I want to grow my business. Okay, well, why do you want to grow your business? Well, I know I'm meant for something better, and I know that I don't want to go back to the day job. Okay, so let's say you're making all of this 100K a month. What are you doing with that is like why you're going after this? And now we're starting to get closer to the real reasons. What I often hear from my perfect prospects, from my ideal clients, is something like, well, I want to take this revenue and I want to start investing it into multifamily. I want to take this revenue, I want to leverage it into real estate. I want to leverage it into other investments. I want to do these other things. Like, okay, got it. Now what about like personally? You mentioned earlier you have the wife, or you have the husband, or you have the kids. What changes for them when you're at 100K a month? Or better yet, we took that from 100K to 30. What changes for them and for you at 30K a month? Now you're starting to pull in aspects of their life that are directly impacted by their success. Another great question for this, for my business coaches, is who else stands to be impacted by you getting to this goal? And they're gonna go into the friends, the family, the mom, the dad. I get to retire my spouse. I can make sure that my parents have a really good place to stay. And what I like to do in this for my folks who help other businesses is understand what the money means to them. Because if you can have a conversation about that, the business stuff almost doesn't matter. The how we're going to get there doesn't matter when they know that you're clear on what they're wanting and they have the confidence that you have the goods to get them there. The fourth part is understanding the future and their vision. Do not leave this at surface level. You have to go deeper to really understand why. And you'll know you got this right when they share something with you and they say, I've never shared that with anybody else. I've never even actually kind of had that thought. Wow. And now you're providing the environment for them where the transformation has already taken place and they haven't even handed you a single dollar yet. Fifth, we know the results and what they're wanting. We know their future vision. Let's bring it back to the ground level. And so once I'm clear there, I'll say something like, okay, got it. I'm pretty clear about where you want to be in the future. And we've already talked about it a little bit, so they know that. And we're not just moving on. What do you think I need to know about how things are right now? And they're going to go into the pains and problems, the things they've tried, the X, Y, and Z. And if they don't, this is where you ask them. If you help single moms get their bodies back, you might say, what do you think I need to know about right now? And they're going to say, well, I already mentioned that the pants aren't fitting. I already mentioned that, like, I can't even go outside. I can't even keep up with the kids. I'm just so embarrassed. And then you're like, okay, got it. So all these things happen. Like, how does that make you feel when that happens? Like, does that usually cause for you to go and try to, like, get back in the gym, or does that cause for you to go to the pantry and grab the Cheetos and grab the bonbons or whatever the case? So you want to understand how things are now, and then what's happening. What are the scenarios? This is great for now embedding it into your content. Don't use direct examples from your prospects, but find ways to modify them to where you know it's going to connect with your audience at large. And then, but take these things that they're saying and embed it in your content, especially when they become paying clients at the end. Understand how things are right now. And then when you have a clear picture, let them know. It's like, okay, I have a pretty clear picture for kind of where things are right now. Is there anything else you feel I need to know? And they're going to say nope, or they're going to explain something else. You give them the room for it and say, okay, got it. We've talked about where you really want to be a year from now and what would make you super happy about your progress. We talked about where things are right now. I have a really good handle on all of that. So let's shift to roadblocks. And here's what I usually say. You talk. All right, I'm going to be listening. What do you feel has been stopping you or holding you back? And then leave the air. Just have your pen and be ready to be writing down. And they're going to start telling you everything going wrong, everything holding them back, everything. You say, okay, got it. Anything else? Okay, tell me more about this thing. Okay, now does this thing, so you need to like create a little web in this moment of what are the roadblocks, what are the things. And then what's even better is that for the future vision and for right now and for their roadblocks and obstacles, if you have previous clients and success stories that you've worked with, that you've helped, and this is the time that you bring them out, and this is the time where you share with them, okay, got it. You know what? When Juan came to me, when Sharon came to me, when Henry came to me, when Carrie came to me, they said the same things. I'm not sure if you saw my story the day, but I posted their recent results, and she made 10K off of our first week together and has another client on the line for 5K, or Henry got 8K in 30 days. And he was actually helps the exact same people that you do. And so now they're going to get the confidence, and maybe they've seen those success stories. Maybe you embedded them in your Calendly or in your phone booking system or in your email follow-up, and you shared them, those things, and you're sharing them in your story. You're sharing them in your content. You're pinning them to highlights. You're creating content around those success stories. They're going to have that proof already, or you're going to have it on hand and be able to share that with them in that example. And this is going to bring them to a level of comfort of like, okay, wow, I'm in the right place. This happened at the right time. Let's keep going. So get the roadblocks, understand them, give them a chance to explain anything else, share any success stories that you've had in past or even your own, which for a lot of you is more than enough. You as a success story is more than enough oftentimes. Then you can take this and you can make them feel more comfortable. And now you know their future vision. You know where they're at now, and you know anything that's holding them or stopping them back. These things also give you a really good sense of their personality and if they're an energetic fit for you. For my one call closers who have not done the 2 call close yet, for my folks who are getting their first 10 clients, it's really hard to really see a full picture into someone's life. And so that's why I want for you to be understanding that energetic match. For my Get Client students and for my advanced coaches who are doing the 2 call close, you will find that in that 15 and that 10, 15-minute call, and you just won't invite them to the strategy call, into the sales call. If they're not that energetic fit, you'll point them to another coach, or you point them to a resource in your group, or you say, okay, got it. Well, thank you so much for showing up. And like right now I don't have any room, or right now the program isn't open, or it sounds to me like this isn't the exact fit. And we, of course, share how to do this and how to open up that quick 10-minute call so that they know at the end you're going to tell them if they're a fit or not, so that way it doesn't catch them by surprise. So that was an aside, but now you know the future. You know exactly where they're at right now, and you know all the things that are holding them back. They should give you some intel, and you should either be a yes or a no with your confidence for can you get them to that future vision, and can you help them to overcome those obstacles. Be sure that you're sharing your client success stories or your own success stories as they're sharing these things as quickly as you can, so that you can still continue moving on and you keep this time rate going really well. Let's talk about the 7th part of a of the flow of a sales call that gets you clients, which is all about value. If you want to control what people think, control what they say. This is where you get to communicate to them what's standing out to them most so far. This is what that sounds like. So let me make sure I've got this right. And now you're going to look at your notes, talk about where they're at now, where do they want to be, and what's stopping them. You'd really like to be at 10K a month. You'd really like to drop 10 pounds as soon as you can, but right now you're heavier than you've ever been. You'd really like to get to 100K a month and a coaching program slammed full of clients that come your way, but right now you're kind of in a dry spell, and that's hurting you because you're trying paid traffic and webinars and podcasts and all of these things, but nothing's really working. And that's what's been holding you back. Do I have that right, or did I miss anything? During this point, when we're thinking about and pulling out what their future is and what now is and the roadblocks, your goal is to find the 1, 2, and 3 big things. What's the big 1 or 2 words of the future? What are the big 1 or 2 things of how things are now? And what are the big 1 or 2 obstacles so that you can communicate it clearly? And when you do this and when you get this right, you will have communicated to them their own story better than anybody else ever has, including themselves. We're going to talk about being the authority and being the big box coach. Who's more of the authority in that moment to them than you? When you control what they say, you control what they think. This is how you pull it out. So let me make sure I've got this right. You'd really like this big result, but right now you're at this place, and this roadblock and that roadblock hasn't really keeping you back. Do I have that right, or did I miss anything? They're going to be like, nah, dude, you got that spot on. You're going to say, okay, perfect. I'm curious. What's standing out most to you so far? What's been most valuable to this point in this conversation so far? And they're going to share with you what those things are. Once they share that, it's time to switch roles. At every step of this, we ask for permission. At every step of this, we've really not done anything that should make them feel weird or uncomfortable. This is where I want for you to start to let them know about where we're at. This is what that sounds like. I feel like I've been doing all the question asking so far, and I've got a solid grip on where you're at and what you need. So let's just shift roles. I'll give you the talking stick. I'll give you the talking hat, and I'll let you do the question asking. Where do you think we should go from here? And then just pause. And they're either going to say, well, how much does it cost? Or they're going to say, do you think you can help me? Or they're going to say, I've never been more clear on all this. I'm loving that we have a goal that feels tangible. I know I've been stuck for a while, but I feel better about this. It sounds to me like you're already helping folks with this. So what's your coaching program all about? Think about if you were having that conversation 1, 2, or 3 times a week, what kind of difference would that make in your business? What would happen if you're having that conversation 1 or 2 times a day? What would revenue look like at the end of any given month? So let's shift roles, and I'll let you do the asking. Start by sharing with me, where do you think we should go from here? And 5, 6, 7 out of 10 times, they're typically going to say, I don't know, where do you think we should go? Because you kind of have the plan, you're cool and collected, you know more about them than where they're at. So why would they even try to steer it in a direction? Or they might say, I want to hear more about this thing that you talked about. I want to hear more about that. And then once you explain that, it's okay, got it. Where do you think we should go from here? You might have to ask that question a couple times. It might feel a little weird, but it's the exact question you need to catapult you into where you need to be. So that is part number 7, which is all about the value and understanding and checking in with what's standing out to them. How are they feeling right now? And this also gives you a chance to pause and to really collect everyone, you and their thoughts, their energy, and kind of bring it back to a zone, because we've talked about the excitement of the future. We brought them down to how pissed off and how angry they are about the now moment. You brought up the obstacles, and it's those things have been the most frustrating for them. Now you want to know what's the value, and then you pop the question, which is, where do you think we should go from here? Once you do that, it's important that you start to validate and that you start to communicate back to them what they've been saying so far. So you should, by this point, have 2 to 3 big problems. You're probably going to have more 5 to 7. I want for you to have 3 strong. So pick from those problems that they're communicating that you're going to focus in on, that are hopefully the 3 biggest problems that you're most suited to help. What that sounds like is, it sounds to me like your 3 big problems to solve are, You want to be at 10K a month, but you wasted a bunch of money, unfortunately, on paid traffic that didn't really work. That costed you a lot of time and a lot of money. And now you are out of the money. You don't have the clients, and that's hurting you because you know you're capable at being 10K. You know of other coaches that are doing it, but you haven't just gotten there yet. Do I have that right? For a single mom getting the high school body back, that might sound like, it sounds to me like your three big problems to solve is you want to be back at your high school body, but you're binge eating, you've gone through some depression, you had 2 or 3 kids, and that's kind of costed you some health, and you haven't been consistent in the gym, and you don't, you're not at where you want to be because you haven't been in the gym, you don't really have a diet plan, you haven't been to follow anything, which just makes sense, and that's hurting you because the sweatpants aren't fitting, you're embarrassed to go outside, you have the 10-year high school reunion coming back, and so that's kind of just been top of mind and top, kind of in your heart. Do I have that right? They're going to say, yes, you hit that on the head. Okay, got it. So we have to validate it, and we have to understand where they're at now. Once you've communicated the problems, tell them what you're prescribing. Don't tell them steps 1, 2, and 3 for how to get there, but tell them at the high level for what needs to happen from your perspective. Okay, got it. So what you really need is, that's what this sounds like. So what you really need is, you need a workout routine that you can do even though you're balancing the kids and the family. You need a nutrition plan that fits good and that fits into your budget so that you can make it happen and bring it to life and not be stressed out. And you also mentioned you need just to be around some other women who are also in the same boat as you and kind of conquering these same things because you just don't have that support system right now. Is that right? Okay, got it. And you have those things. You have the support system, whether that's just you or you and the other clients in your coaching program. You have that nutrition plan. You have that workout plan. You have that business strategy. You have that training. You have that workbook. You have that success story of someone who's already done it already. And they're going to say, yeah, totally. Okay. This is where you start to now move into the last part of the call, which is starting to unpack the offer that you have. And so what I do once I've mentioned the prescriptions, you need a plan, you need the support, you need the help, you need to know how to do sales calls, you need to have a better DM script, you need to have a better script that closes clients in, that gets them closing you. Now we're going to start to get into, hopefully, unpacking the offer. And what I like to do is check in with them at each stage of this. Okay, are you comfortable with everything so far? Okay, awesome. Any questions or concerns so far? Okay, awesome. Where do you think we should go from here? It's a great question that you can use during this point, but oftentimes just one of those can keep you moving along. So we got to get to start talking about you now. They've done all of the talking. Now it's time to get into your stuff and to controlling what they say, to control what they think, for lack of better words. And so after you've described the prescriptions to them and what they need and the goods that you have, basically, what I like to ask is, where do you think we should go from here? They're like, I'm loving this. Let's keep going. Like, coach, where do you think we should go? It's like, this is where you're going to start getting into your promise, what you do for them, kind of what your guarantee is and how it looks. And the way you transition into this is by saying, if we are going to consider working together, think about that. You aren't saying, I'm taking you on. You aren't saying, here's the price. You aren't saying, do you want to work with me? You're saying, if we're both going to consider working with each other, I think it's important that we're aligned on goals. So here's what I do. I help single moms get their high school body back. I help single moms with 2 or more kids to get their high school body back so that they can feel more confident, so that they can inspire their younger generation, so they can inspire the kids, and so they can live their best life. I might say something like, if we are going to consider working together, I think it's important that we're aligned on goals. So here's what I do, is I help online coaches become the authority with the right plan. I help online coaches who are stuck with less than 5 clients get to 15. I help coaches who are stuck below $3,000 a month get to a minimum of 15K, so that you can do X, do Y, do Z. And you can now transpose what they're wanting and what their money means to them into this, so that you can invest into real estate, take the kids on more vacation, and retire the spouse, so that you can make sure mom has an amazing retirement home, you can give back to charity, and so that you can start to actually spend on you for once. Share with them what they want to have and reflect it back into their dream. Then you're going to say something like, does that make sense? Yeah. Any questions on that? Cool. Where do you think we should go from here? They're going to say, no, this is great. Like, how much does it cost? You're going to get that during this. And what you're going to say, if they ever say that, and we'll do an objections episode here soon if you think that'd be valuable. So hit me on Instagram @whatupjeremy and let me know if you'd like to hear about some objections and how to overcome them. when you say, where do you think we should go from here? They're going to say, well, what does it cost? It's like, yeah, dude, totally happy to share the price with you once you understand the value and what would be most beneficial for you. Is that fair? They're going to say, yeah, that's fair. Okay, awesome. And then you're going to segue. Why don't we talk about what we need to work on? This is where I prefer to get hands-on with my prospects and have them draw out our model. So I'll have them draw out a square or a triangle, whatever model we're focused on for them and their business, and I'll share with them what it looks like, how they're going to get leads, how they're going to get prospects closing them, what they're going to do in their program to make it scale and to get to helping more people all at once. And so I'll have them grab a pen and a paper, and I'll have them go through that. I'm going to omit sharing the majority of that here because it gets a little complex. But if you have a model in your online business that you leverage that's napkin sketchable, I'd recommend you leading your prospects through it so that right in front of them, they can see the whole plan at a high level, and it's going to provide some clarity that they've never had before, and you're that coach that did it. Once you do that and they write out their model and you tie it to their goal, now we need to segue it. To do that model, to do that thing, to get you back to your high school body, to get you to 3K, we really need 3 things. Now we go into logistics. There are really 3 things you need. You got to have the right plan, you got to have the right tools, and you need a way to get help, right? Use what you have in your program, right? You need someone who's been there and done that. You need someone to kind of act as some guardrails so that you don't get too off course, and you need a way to ask questions, and you need a support system with other women who are just like you, right? They're going to say, yeah, exactly. So let me show you how we do that. Everything starts with the community. Everything starts with the plan. Everything starts with the model. Second is the tools. Second is the support system. Second is the accountability. Third is the help. It's the one-on-one. It's our calls together. It's the curriculum. They're going to say, okay, got it. Yep, makes sense. Okay, got it, yep. What I like to ask is, what of what I've shared with you so far sounds the most interesting or valuable to you? What sounds the most helpful? They're going to say, do the accountability, do the help, dude, if I could talk with you for 30 minutes a week, if I just being in your world and having that thing that you talked about, that framework, whatever Henry did, whatever Juan is doing for a 60K month in August, I want that. Say, okay, awesome. Yeah, what's really cool about the way Juan did it was he used that model that the little model. Yeah, Juan took that and made it his own. Or Henry was able to use this one little thing from our Convo to Close intellectual property, from my Convo to Close curriculum, and he used that to go and book one client at 8K, or 2 clients at 8K, something like that, 2 clients at 4K, whatever it is. So ask them what's most valuable about what you've shared of your program so far, and then elaborate on it just for a second. And then you're going to say, does that make sense? Yeah, comfortable with everything so far? I'm not talking too fast? Okay, got it. Where do you think we should go from here? They're either going to say, I don't know, or you tell me. You say, okay, cool. Why don't we talk about the time frames that kind of need to be on your radar? And this is where you transpose. It's a 6-week program. It's going to take a minimum of 6 weeks for us. It's going to take 6 weeks, and then at the end of the 6 weeks, you can do another. It's a year-long program. It's 6 months long. And you're going to share with them how long your program is. That's thing number 1. The second thing you're going to share is when they can start to expect results. If you're a business coach like me, share with them when they're going to expect the return on their investment. Lastly is your guarantee. So the 3 things that you really need to communicate here is how long the program is. That way they understand kind of what they're getting and starting to understand what they're getting. Then you're going to explain what the time frame is on the return on investment. I'll usually say something like, let's talk about the first quarter that you're in. With some coaches, depending where they're at, I'll say, let's talk about this first 2 weeks. You're going to have more than what you invested here so far because of X, Y, or Z. My first goal is to help you generate revenue and to help you get 3 to 5 clients in ASAP. And I'll say, and the reason why is because the last thing I want is for finances to stop you from continuing in the program, and for finances to be an issue for you in life as well. So let's get you some money in. Let's get this first month, or let's get the entire investment paid for. That way you're super stoked and we can continue growing together and maybe even growing even faster. Show your guarantee. Lastly is a guarantee. If you do everything and it doesn't work, here's what we do. If you implement, you play full out, you ask questions, and you do all the worksheets and submit them, my guarantee is this. Timeframes. At this point in the call, there's only one thing you haven't talked about that they're super wondering, which is the price. And so you communicated the timeframes, you ended with your guarantee, and then you say, where do you think we should go from here? Are you comfortable? Yeah. Everything cool so far? Sweet. Where do you think we should go from here? They're going to say, I don't know. They're going to say, you tell me. They're going to say, time for the price. And you're going to say, yeah. Kind of the only thing we haven't talked about to this point is the investment. Right now in July, right now in August, right now in January, the investment to join is just, then you share your investment. It's just $500 to get started that covers you for the first month. And then it's just $500 a month for the rest of the 6 months or the 12 months or the whatever. Or it's $100 right now and it's just a small, easy payment of $100 a week for the year, whatever yours is. After that, it goes month to month and you stay in as long as you're loving it and getting a bunch of value. And I would recommend doing that. For my more beginner coaches, you can leave that part out for now and build that in a little bit later. But what's great about this is that they're going to do the 6 months and then they're loving it. They might stay for the rest of the year. They might stay for the next 3 years. And then you can also have a conversation at that point to say, do they want to pay in full for the rest of it? Do they want some sort of special? Hey, you can get 18 months. Hey, you can get 12 months instead of the 6, and it's this rate, and you get this bonus by doing it in full. It lets you have another cash injection. And like, I'm a fan of clients for life who want to continue working with me, continue investing, and because they're getting the money back, and because they're getting results, and because they're loving it, and because all their friends are in the program too. So you're going to say after that, it goes month to month, or you're going to leave that out. You're going to say one of two things, the investment, and you're going to say it goes month to month, or you're going to say the investment and how it works. And then you're going to say, and we can get you started with an American Express, MasterCard, Visa, or whatever you'd like. What option do you feel would be best for you? They're going to say Visa or Discover, or can I do PayPal? And you're going to say, yeah, totally. Let me get you entered into the system. And now you've provided them the space to have the kind of clarity that they've never had before. They already felt like they found the right coach, and every step of the way was validated by your pace, by your professional tone, by understanding the problems and communicating back to them better than they could have, and by controlling the frame the entire time, and by getting them to explain to you why you're the person, why now's the time, what's most valuable about the program that you're talking about, and then what form of payment do they want to use to get started. This is a little something called assuming the sale. Taken out of context, it can become a slimy thing, but in this context where they're comfortable, they're loving it, they've asked great questions, they're feeling clearer than ever before, it's a very appropriate question to ask in the right way and with the right tone, and it's just like, that's what's next. It's like, we did all this, how do you want to get started? Do you want to do it on Visa, MasterCard, American Express? What works best for you? So, those are the 9 steps of sales calls to get your prospects closing you. There's an additional piece on here that I'm not going to share with you for what happens once you collect the payment. And part of the reason is because I don't want to overwhelm you. Part of it is because I haven't decided if I want to share the magic that we do with our sales calls in the Get Clients program and our curriculum with it. So it's one of those two. I'll let you choose what it is. If you want to hear what that is, then the Leverage Coach free community is the best place for you to go because we have more curriculum on the flow of a sales call and how to implement this and your call booking system and your DM system and dialing all of those in. And then once you're getting some results, we can talk about taking that to the next level and helping you to install even more of our systems to help you get to a minimum of 3 to 5 clients a month and then get you into getting 3 to 5 clients a week. In the next episode of Client by Client, we're going to do another face-off. In the past, we've done Facebook groups versus email lists. In the past, we've done organic marketing versus paid traffic. And I want to build off of the subject we've had here today, which is payment plans versus clients paying in full at the end of these sales calls. So if you're loving this and you're getting value from it, so if you're loving this and you've been getting value from this episode, be sure to come back tomorrow so that you can hear my mindset and my philosophy about payment plans versus pay in full, which one's better, which one's worse, which one you should focus on. We'll answer all of that in episode 70 tomorrow on Client by Client. Whenever you are ready, here are 3 ways I can help you grow your online business. First, download your free copy of GetBookedCRM. Coaches, are you still managing your leads and pipeline from Instagram DM, Facebook Messenger, and your email inbox where you're losing leads in the cracks and you're leaving a lot of money on the table every single month? That's why I created GetBookedCRM. And at the time of this recording, it's 100% free to download and access your free copy now. All you have to do is find me on Instagram and send me the letters CRM. Second, Join my free group for online coaches. I've got 900 coaches and counting from all over the world. They're just a step ahead of where you're at right now, at the exact same step, navigating the exact same problems, or a small baby step or two behind where you're at right now. And all ships rise in a high tide. You'll get access to me, access to them, and access to trainings I don't put anywhere else that are only for my Leverage Coach community members. To get your free invite now, find me on Instagram and send me the word group. Lastly, become my next success story. I'm getting a couple coaches together this month to implement my frameworks for injecting a minimum of 15K worth of new clients or doubling your online client roster base over the next 30, 60, 90 days. But working with the right people is super important to me. So only respond to this if you are a relationship-focused coach who always puts the human ahead of the money. You've been coaching for at least 1 year, or you're not brand new to online coaching. You like to get 3 to 5 clients organically from social media every month without wasting money on paid ads. You have at least 300 friends on a social platform, email list, or group. You are willing to take bold action because you know your success depends upon it. And last but most importantly, you can keep a secret. If that's you, I want you to grab your phone right now, tap on Instagram and search @WhatUpJeremy and send me the words case study. When you do that, I'll share with you what we have coming up this month in the Get Clients program and how we're already helping students from all over the world to implement my methods and strategies, like Juan, who set up for a 60K month in August, or Henry, who got 8K worth of clients in his first 31 days in the program. We'll also identify what part of the Get Clients program will likely have the largest impact in your online business the soonest. That way you know what to expect. For all the details, all you have to do is send me the words case study on Instagram now. That's it for this episode of Client by Client. Thank you so much for tuning in. Cheers. That was a long one. Might be our longest one to date, team. Martin, what is up? Attitude, not desperate. That is exactly what we need. Yeah, pace is a good reminder, right? Like if you don't take that wheel in the very beginning of the call, then it gets really hard to keep up with a good pace, and they can get to chatting and talking from the beginning. And once that precedent is set, you're going to be the asshole if you have to reel them back in. So take that wheel in the very beginning, set the agenda. You're ready to get started? Okay, awesome. Here's how it's going to work. We're going to talk about the future, talk about now, and talk about roadblocks. Is that cool with you? Amazing. Let's get started. I'm curious, what made you choose me over all the other coaches in the world you could be talking to, and why is this important to you right now in your online business? Okay, got it. Amazing. All right, team. I'm famished, even though I'm not going to eat right now. I have a crumble cookie in the fridge waiting for me, so I'm going to fast it out a little bit. We have some celebrations. My sister got a brand new opportunity that she's starting here this next week. We're going to have some Korean barbecue. It's a great day. That's why I got this done a little earlier, and I hope this finds you well. If you're loving this and digging it, be sure to subscribe in Apple Podcasts or in Spotify. You can also find it by going to pod.link/clients, and it'll be there in your favorite podcast player. That's it. I'll see you guys back on Monday. Let me know in the comments in the chat, what are your weekend plans? What do you have going on? And be safe. It's Friday. You still got time. Go sell something. You'll feel better. That's it for me, team. Peace.